Year 2007, when a group of rambunctious kids entered kindergarten. For the first couple of years, everything went pretty normal. Just a couple of times, students hid from teachers in closets and started a few fights, no big deal. But in third grade, things began to spiral downhill. Teachers referred to them as the worst class they have ever had, and the class began to accept this title and run with it. It was as if the students waged war against one another. Once, a boy pushed a girl off the slide, breaking her arm. Next, a rock was put in a Reese's and fed to another classmate. Through the years, students came and went, but this group of kids continued to rebel no matter who they gained or lost. While visiting their state capital on a field trip, this class was asked to leave because they were being too rowdy and they got in big trouble. The most infamous thing this class did before entering into junior high was a rubber band war that took place for weeks on the playground. This war only ceased once the school had a police officer come in and talk to the students, explaining that a rubber band is in fact a weapon, and threatened to arrest one of them if they assaulted someone with a rubber band again. This class entered junior high with the high hopes of becoming the worst class their school had ever seen. Once in junior high, the group of students experienced switching classes for the first time. So for a while, this new atmosphere distracted the students from rebelling. Not for long though. As April Fool's Day approached in this class's 8th grade year, they were thinking of ways to prank one of the teachers. Many students thought of ideas, but the rest of the class knew that they would never go through with it, or they hoped. But once word got around to some teachers, the whole class was brought to have yet another meeting about harming others. There were more fights and drama during the 2 years in junior high, but the class made it through nevertheless. Finally, this class was entering into high school. Maybe now, some teachers thought, they will stop being so mischievous. As freshmen, though, the class was still feared by many teachers. They had heard of their reputation and were very strict to them. Finally, this class did settle down, somewhat. The worst thing that happened freshman year for this class was when two girls got into a fight, and one of them threw a table on the other. Not just any table, but a very heavy table, smashing the other girl's foot. The rest of that year was full of the class settling in as high schoolers and trying to grasp the concept of having homework every single day. Sophomore year, despite what others may say, was the hardest year for this class. Not in terms of acting out, but in schoolwork. Each student was taking 4 core classes and plenty of electives. This field trip was with their science teacher to Six Flags on Science Day. The day at the park was extremely exciting, but the trip home was the most memorable. After stopping for fried chicken at KFC, someone plugged their aux cord to the bus and started playing music. At first, everyone on the bus started singing along, and eventually everyone was up dancing around, having a party on the way home. Safely, I might add. As this class entered their junior year, teachers became hopeful and confident that they had changed. Also, many of the students had gotten their driver's license over the summer, and most would get them during the school year. This is where a new problem arose with the class. A small problem, but a problem nevertheless. Students would leave the parking lot before their allotted time after school, racing to get out before a teacher caught them. Once, in the morning before school, a couple of boys ran a car into the only tree even close to the parking lot. Overall, though, that was the largest problem this class faced their junior year, besides the ACT. Taking the ACT is a whole different story, but we don't have time for that. Lastly, this class was entering their senior year at their school. Finally, they could be, as they called themselves, the big dogs. They were no longer considered the worst class in school because they finally outgrew the name and acted well. The worst thing they did as seniors were skipping school regularly just for food and someone showing up for the ACT 5 minutes before it started. Many of them spent their days laying on the couches in the library, taking naps, and eating the librarian's delicious brownies. All the while, this class was ready to graduate, ready to leave, until one day they were forced to leave, without even knowing it would be their last day in high school ever. They received no prom, no senior trip. Some even lost a senior sports season. They wanted to leave, but not like this. But in all truth, what better class could this type of senior year go to besides the class who is known for being the worst of the worst? They have had recess taken from them when they were young, but nothing could have prepared them for losing the best few weeks of their senior year. They made it through, though. They FaceTimed one another, took classes online, and stayed at home for a very, very long time. Many of these students did not find it fair that their senior year was taken away, but they adjusted and learned that life is not fair. Material things will be taken away, but they will always have the memories to hold on to forever, the good and the bad. Overall, they realized that all of the stories that made them sound like such a horrible class, and all the good ones in between, were the memories they would cherish the most when their last couple of months together were ripped from them. As our class motto says, it truly was the best of times and the worst of times. This was the story of the class of 2020, our story, but it is most definitely not the end. Thank you.